This is the second in a two-part video series for how to go about creating a tire rim in Autodesk Fusion. You will notice on the screen I have the basic design of just the base of the tire rim, where we have the outside and the inside part that would fit to the axle. The outside part would have a tire attached to it. And in a previous video, the first video of this series, in my YouTube channel, I went through and showed how we can go in and take some geometry, put a center line down through the center of the origin, and create the geometry that you see over here, and use the revolution tool to ultimately create the design that you see here in Fusion. Now, what we will do in this video is we will start creating more of the artistic elements that we would see in a tire rim design. And as I mentioned in the previous video, that the inspiration for this tire rim and just for the tire itself comes from Automobilox cars. And you'll notice that as I scroll down, the design on the rim goes from a little bit more basic to just a little bit more advanced. And what I want to get into in the video is just kind of giving you a template of where to start and how to begin the process of creating a more aerodynamic and more of an artistic design here for the part that we have not completed when you look at our tire rim design right here. Now, in order for us to get started, we are going to have to open up our origin menu over here in our browser tab. So I want you to open up origin, and I just want to turn on my eyelet right here next to origin, and it'll show us all the axes and all of the planes. And what I'm wanting is a plane that will slice this down through the middle while still allowing me to maintain that front view. So I want to sketch in the front view. And when I go over to my origin toolbar, I can see here that XZ is the one that highlights out in the design area. That is the one that allows me to stay in that front view. And we're going to right click on XZ, and we're going to create sketch. Then let's click on our house up by our view cube. And you'll notice that I have something that looks like it goes down through the center of the object, but I can't really design in there because all this other design parts are in the way. We want to come to our sketch palette, and we want to click on slice. And what slice will do is it'll slice graphics right down through the center. Now I'm going to go ahead and rotate and take a look at this. And all we really need is just one side of it. So we're just going to use the right side. And what you see where there's lines cut through is these are section lines. And what that means is material was cut. So in essence, we took kind of a knife and cut right down through the center of our original design, and we just got rid of the other part momentarily. Now we want to see where the material is. Notice that there are no diagonal lines or no purple or pink colors. You don't see any of that in this area here, and that's because that there was nothing cut. There's only air in that area. You would only see the section lines where we had material cut. Now we needed to get some geometry to help us with the design we're going to create. So to get some geometry, we need to project geometry. So we're going to letter P on our keyboard, and we're going to see that we're project. And what I want you to do is we're just going to click on some corners, and we're going to go in the top right and the top left-hand corners of this little C shape over here. And we're going to go to the top right and the top left-hand corners of this rectangular prism. And if possible, we can get a little bit more geometry, but you can notice there's a lot going on in here that Fusion's trying to identify. And I could try to get some lines or just some other areas, but I think the only other one I really want is just this vertical line right here. And you'll notice it says 5 selected. We've got ourselves 4 dots for 4 corners and 1 vertical line. I'm going to go ahead and just say OK. And I want to emphasize before we get started that this is just an example of a design. It's not the example. You can do a lot of different things when you design the artistic elements of the rim. I'm just trying to give you a template for how to get started. Now on the rim I'm going to design, I want to use the 3-point arc command, and the 3-point arc command is going to show why we projected the geometry of these points. So I'm going to go to arc, and I'm going to go to 3-point arc, and I want to start by clicking on our left-hand dot right here that's out here in the middle, and we're going to go to our far outside dot or corner, and I'm just going to kind of drag up just a little bit. We don't have to be perfect, and if I wanted this to be super out this way, a little bit, more radius of an arc, I would drag out, but I don't mind to be a little bit more muted, and I'm just going to click right along here. I'm going to go back up to create. We're going to go back to 3-point arc. Now, I'm not going to click on this dot right here. I want to just reference it because I want to drag straight down along this line, and I'm going to click. I'm going to come up here and click on my other corner right here. And I'm just going to kind of drag myself some kind of a little bit of a shape like this, and I'm going to right click and say OK. Now, if I want to guarantee that absolutely this dot right here, or this end of the arc, will always be vertically aligned with this corner, I want to come up to the geometric constraints, and we're going to click on the vertical horizontal geometric constraint, and I want to say I want this end of our arc to always be vertically aligned with that corner. And notice we got our vertical alignment icons here. That means those will always be aligned. I can always also just kind of drag this down a little bit. I can hold and drag down if I want to change anything with this arc. With this one up here, I can make the radius change a little bit. This one right here really will only kind of start following, a distance down. So you can mess with this however you wish, but I'm just going to keep mine, right about here. Next what we're going to do is we need to create this into a closed sketch. We only have 2 lines drawn. We're going to grab hold of the line command, and we're just going to kind of play connect the dots. So I want to play connect the dots from here to here, and from that top right corner down to the end of our 3-point arc. And then I also want to play connect the dots over here and here. And you'll notice that as we went through, Fusion gave us 2 closed surfaces, and we're going to use both of these, but you probably saw this turn a little light blue first, then you saw this turn light blue, and in Fusion when you see something turn light blue, that means that the sketch is closed. Basically means if we poured water inside the sketch, no water would leak out. It means that Fusion sees it as something that it can create a form or a feature from. We're going to go ahead and click on Finish Sketch. We are going to go up to our house button. We're going to go click on the revolve command, and it's going to ask us for profiles, and we have 2 profiles. We want to click on this profile and this profile. We're going to click on axis. We're going to go out here in the middle. Let's go to our top view. Now for you, yours might have gone automatically just completely just a full one. If it was a full revolution all the way around 360 degrees, this looks a little bit more like a donut shape. If I don't want a full, I want to go down to partial. And you'll notice here I got a 12-degree angle, and I'm in symmetric. And I recommend that if you're in one side or two side, we go to symmetric, and that'll allow you to kind of go on either side and make this the same, almost like a mid-plane extrusion, but we're doing a mid-plane revolution. I'm going to take mine down to about, let's say, I don't know, 10. I don't know if I want to keep it like that. We can come back and always change that. And where it says operation, where it says join, we want to go down and we want to say new body. So we want to make sure a new body shows up over here. And we're going to go ahead and say OK. Let's click on our house button. Now I still have that origin menu on. We don't need to see that anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the eyeball for that. Now as we look straight down from the top, what we're eventually going to do is pattern this all the way around. But I've found doing all of your features in the first original body that you will pattern helps out a lot as you go in and design a rim like this. So our next step we're going to do, just for a little bit of design, is we're going to grab a hold of the fillet command, and we're going to click on our 2 corners right here. And I just want to drag in just a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy, but I want to make this look kind of aerodynamic and kind of cool looking. And I'm just going to drag in. You can do whatever you wish. I just want to give myself a rounded ooff corner about like this, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Kind of a cool looking, fillet on the edge. Makes things, reflect light a little bit different. It's kind of a nice, no one wants to see a real jagged, 90-degree angle on a rim like this. Kind of a cool, more aerodynamic design. Our next step of just something I want to do is we're going to put a little cut into this part right here we've created, into this body. So we're going to go up to construct, and we're going to go to offset plane. Now I want to click on the outside surface right here, just basically the top surface, if you will, of that rim. We're just going to drag up. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Let's grab a hold of create sketch. I'm going to click on that plane we created. Let's hit the letter P on our keyboard, and I just want to project this triangle. So I'm going to project that triangle up onto that plane. And what that looks like, if I come back out to my house, and if I were to say finish sketch, but I'm not going to, see, we're all the way up here designing, and I was able to project that geometry up. I'm not on the actual part itself. I projected the geometry up to that offset plane. Let's go to top. Next thing I want to do is I want to go up to the offset command. Let's click on offset, and I want to click on the projected lines that we just had. And I want to drag those out just a little bit. I want to make sure that the end point right here does not go into this cylinder right here. I also make sure it doesn't cut right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. I'm going to grab a hold of the line command, and I just want to click on this line, or I just want to make sure I go over the top. Sometimes you don't need to do this, and sometimes you do. I'm a little bit more of a person that when I design in Fusion, I want to make sure my lines are actually working, and I want to make sure that when I go into create a feature, I don't have to go back and redraw anything. Now I'm going to get myself just a little bit of some kind of a semicircle in here, and the best way to do that is to go to create, and we're going to go to circle. We're going to go to to tangent circle, and I want it to be tangent to this side and this side. And as I drag up, the only thing I want to make sure of is I really don't want this circle to go into the exterior part. So I don't want to drag too far over this way. I want to click, like I want to bring a little bit of daylight. If you see this area in here, I want there to be some daylight between the circle and the inner part of that exterior part of the tire rim. I'm going to go ahead and come up now, and we're going to go to trim. I want to trim off these outside parts. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to make myself just a little bit of kind of like an ice cream cone shape, if you will. I come in and cut that off, and this right here is what we're going to cut into the object. If we wanted to say, I want to make, a lot of cool things we can do with this. If I wanted to say, I want to go to circle and 2-point tangent circle again, and I say, between here and here, can I get anything down here on the bottom? It looks like it's not wanting to let me do that. So I'm just going to say undo. Let's go back. There we go. We're just going to keep this here then. I was going to try to maybe put a little circle down here. You could do that if you wanted to, but just for the sake of time and in the video, we won't do that. I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. I'm going to come up to my house button. Let's grab a hold of extrude. We're going to click on just that little ice cream cone shape in there, and we're going to drag all the way down. We want it to go all the way down. See if it'll give us all when we go all the way down. Yes, it will. We're going to go all the way through that object. We're going to say OK. Let's come up to our top view. We've got our little cut in here. Nice. So now that we've completed, just this one part, we're going to decide now how many of these do we want to pattern around the center. And in order for us to do that, we have to do a circular pattern. We're going to go to create in the top left-hand corner. We're going to go down to pattern. We're going to go to circular pattern. Bodies. What body do we want? What's nice is we can just come right over here and just click on body 19 in our browser menu. We could come out here and just click here. I like to interact with the bodies menu. It's a nice thing to only utilize that bodies menu. Makes it easier to see things. Next, our axis is right here in the center. Now if I come up here to the top view, I have by default, mine has 8. You might have 6 or even 3 in some cases. I might say, I've got 8 of these. Maybe I might want 10 of them. It's all up to you. However many you want, we'll say OK. Come back out to my house button. We now have for ourselves our design just right around the outside of that tire rim. We can still have other things that we can do. We have a pretty thin object in here, but if you wanted to come in here and do any kind of like shelling in here, you can, but that can get kind of tricky with some more complex designs. A lot of neat things that you can do with a design like this. But this is kind of like I said at the beginning of the video, this is something that I wanted to create just to give you a template for where to start. So everything goes back to that initial sketch that we did in the center of the object, that thing that sliced graphics right down through the center. So when we look at this object, we have ourselves 10 extrusions here, that symmetric revolution, excuse me. We have 10 of what we did a symmetric revolution of, and we also have our fillets, and we also have that cut that went down through the middle. So as we finish out this video, I want you to think about how would you go about designing a really neat rim that could fit on some kind of these toy cars. You can 3D print these and find out the diameter of the axles and pop them on there, and that gets into tolerancing. There's a lot of neat things you can do. In another video I'll show how to create the tire utilizing a top-down design method to put a tire around the outside of this object. So this has been a video for how to go about creating the aerodynamic design of the more artistic side of creating a tire rim in Autodesk Fusion.